January 17, 1991. The Persian Gulf. 5:30 in the morning, still draped in the pre-dawn gloom of a desert winter. Two U.S. Navy F-18 Hornets are tearing through Iraqi airspace, their wings heavy, burdened with a quartet of 2,000-pound bombs each. Their mission? Simple, direct, and brutally effective. Crater an airfield, deny Saddam Hussein's Air Force a critical fallback strip. But then a problem. Two Iraqi MiG-21s, old but still dangerous, have just screamed off a nearby runway, climbing hard to intercept. In the next 4 minutes, these Hornets, designed primarily as attack aircraft, will undergo an astonishing metamorphosis. They'll flip from dedicated bombers to agile fighters, notch the very first air-to-air kills of the entire Gulf War. And then, without missing a beat, they'll flip back, finish their bombing run, and head for home. It's a single mission that doesn't just push the envelope. It completely rewrites what one airplane can achieve in the chaos and crucible of combat. It's a story of audacious pilots and a machine designed to defy expectations. You know, for most of aviation history, fighter jets specialized. You were either a striker, built to carry a heavy load of ordnance and deliver it with precision, or you were a dogfighter, stripped down for agility, designed to own the skies. It was a clear, almost sacred division. But the F-18 Hornet? It was engineered to completely ignore that rulebook. The F in its designation stands for fighter, and the A for attack. And on this frigid morning, the Hornet didn't just prove both letters counted. It screamed them from the Iraqi skies. We're going to follow Lieutenants Commander Mark Fox and Nick Mongilio, call signs MRT and Mongo, as they transform what should have been a routine bombing run into an aviation legend, a testament to both human skill and technological brilliance. This wasn't just a mission, it was a declaration of war on conventional wisdom. The sun hadn't even thought about peeking over the horizon yet, but down below, the massive aircraft carriers of the U.S. Navy were already humming with an almost frantic energy. The USS Saratoga, the USS Kennedy, and the USS America had effectively turned the vast expanse of the Persian Gulf into a series of floating, mobile airfields, each a beehive of activity, launching waves of aircraft into the nascent war. Lieutenant Commander Mark Fox's squadron, the VFA-81 Sunliners, felt the shudder as their FA-18 call sign, Sunliner 301, was catapulted off the deck of the USS Saratoga. The plan was, on paper at least, elegantly simple. Head northwest, link up with a tanker for a quick top-off of fuel, then push deep into enemy territory towards Jaliba Airfield. Once there, they'd unleash their Mk-84s, those massive 2,000-pound general-purpose bombs, right onto the runway, effectively denying Saddam's Air Force a critical fallback strip, a place where their aircraft could retreat, refuel, and rearm. The intelligence briefs had been cautiously optimistic, almost dismissive of the Iraqi Air Force. Coalition planners had given the chance of an aerial engagement a mere 10%. A slim chance, perhaps, but for any pilot, 10% is always enough to keep your head on a swivel, to keep that edge of readiness honed. Because in combat, that small percentage can quickly become your entire world. The F-18, after all, was built for versatility, but on this particular mission, the expectation was firmly on the A for attack. They were bomb trucks, pure and simple, and the skies above Iraq were supposed to be clear. Fox and Mongilio were flying a standard two-ship formation, their call sign Sunliner 301, a pair of Hornets ready to deliver their destructive payload. Each jet was a beast of burden, laden for ground attack. Underneath their centerline pylons, they carried two Mk-84 2,000-pound bombs, massive, blunt instruments designed to tear up concrete and infrastructure. For self-defense, almost as an afterthought given the low threat assessment, they had two AIM-9 Sidewinders, those iconic heat-seeking missiles, tucked onto their wingtips, and just under each intake, a single AIM-7 Sparrow radar-guided missile. To extend their reach deep into Iraq, they also carried two massive 330-gallon drop tanks. The translation of this loadout was clear to any pilot. They were pigs. Not literally, of course, but aerodynamically speaking, they were draggy, heavy, and anything but a nimble fighter. Every ounce of their design, every switch and dial in the cockpit, was meticulously set for air-to-ground operations. Their radar was locked into terrain-following mode, guiding them low over the desert floor. Their radios were tuned to the strike frequency, ready for coordination with other attack assets. And the bombs? fully armed, ready to be unleashed. Then, out of the static, a crackle. It was an E-2C Hawkeye, the Navy's airborne early warning and control aircraft. Its voice calm but urgent over the guard frequency. Sunliner. Bandits, your bullseye 270 for 40, Angels 8, heading 120. For the uninitiated, that's just a string of numbers. For Fox and Mongilio, it was a sudden, chilling blast of reality. English translation. 2 enemy MiG-21s had just launched from the dirt strip at Mudesis. They were climbing rapidly and they were heading directly for the Hornets, closing fast. That 10% chance had just become 100. Fox's first thought, a visceral punch to the gut, was probably something along the lines of, "You've got to be kidding me." The sheer audacity of the Iraqi Air Force combined with the immediate, life-threatening reality of the situation must have been jarring. In an instant, the entire mission paradigm shifted. The F-18 was configured for bombing. Its mind, so to speak, was on the ground. Now it had to become a fighter. And fast. Without hesitation, Fox's hand shot to the master arm switch. It was currently in the up position, meaning armed for ground attack. He flicked it down to safe, a momentary pause to ensure no accidental bomb release in the coming chaos. Then immediately back up to air. Mongilio, flying his wing, mirrored the action, a silent, practiced choreography of survival. This wasn't just a flick of a switch. It was a fundamental reorientation of the aircraft's entire combat purpose. This is where the Hornet's revolutionary design truly shone. Its advanced computers, the digital multiplexing avionics bus that linked all its systems, didn't care if it was a bomb or a missile. The store's management page, the pilot's interface for all weapons, treated everything as a store. 2 quick keystrokes on the multi-function display, a blur of practiced fingers, and the Sparrows previously in standby were now declared ready for launch. But there was still the issue of those massive drop tanks. 3,000 pounds of external fuel and the aerodynamic drag they created were a death sentence in an air-to-air fight. With a jarring clunk that reverberated through the airframe, the drop tanks jettisoned, tumbling away into the Iraqi desert below. Instantly, 3,000 pounds of dead weight and crippling drag vanished. The Hornets, liberated, felt it immediately. Their noses came up. The airspeed, which had been a steady 480 knots, bled rapidly down to a more maneuverable 320 knots. Suddenly they were fighters, or at least they were trying to be. The problem, a glaring neon sign problem, was that those 4 2,000-pound bombs were still hanging stubbornly under their bellies. They were still slow and predictable, even after the rapid transformation. As it turned out, the MiG-21s weren't flown by green pilots. These were Iraqi airmen who had actually received proper thorough training, and they were executing a textbook intercept. They split. One MiG veering left, the other right, attempting a classic bracketing maneuver to trap the Hornets between them. This was no amateur hour. These guys knew what they were doing. Fox, with adrenaline coursing, immediately called engage defensive, a crucial radio call to his wingman and any other friendly forces within earshot, signaling he was in a fight. He broke hard, banking sharply into the southern bandit, pulling the Hornet through a violent turn. The MiG launched a heat seeker, a glowing spear of death, but Fox, with incredible composure, defeated it by beaming. This wasn't some magic trick. It involved turning the Hornet's narrowest profile, its beam, towards the incoming missile, presenting the smallest possible target, and using the aircraft's own radar energy to confuse the missile's seeker head. It's a high-stakes, split-second maneuver that requires immense skill and nerves of steel. Having evaded the immediate threat, Fox then yanks back on the stick, pulling the Hornet into a gut-wrenching climb. The G-meter, that little dial that tells a pilot how many times their body weight is being pressed into the seat, touched a brutal 7 Gs. The Hornet groaned, protesting the immense forces tearing at its structure. But it held. Mark Fox, for his part, was fighting to maintain consciousness, the blood draining from his head, his vision tunneling. But through the haze, the multifunction display flashed a glorious, life-saving message, AIM 7 ready. His thumb, steady despite the bone-jarring maneuvers, squeezed the red pickle button on the stick. With a whoosh and a sudden kick, the AIM 7 Sparrow missile left the rail, its motor igniting with a roar, dropping momentarily as it cleared the aircraft, then climbing swiftly towards its target. The time of flight felt like an eternity, but was only 8 seconds. The MiG pilot, seeing the incoming threat, jinked violently, desperately trying to shake the radar lock, but it was too late. The Sparrow, with its improved seeker head, a crucial upgrade from the notoriously unreliable Vietnamese-era missiles, tracked true. It didn't need a direct hit. It exploded under the MiG's left wing, tearing it apart. First kill. A bomber pilot in a bomb-laden jet had just shot down an enemy fighter. While Fox was locked in his deadly dance, Mongilio was engaged in his own desperate struggle with the second MiG. He found himself nose-high, battling the Iraqi pilot inside half a mile. This was a knife fight in a phone booth, an incredibly close-quarters dogfight. The MiG pilot, also well-trained, dumped flares, attempting to decoy any heat-seeking missiles, then pulled his aircraft vertical, trying to force Mongilio into an overshoot, a classic tactic to get behind an opponent. But Mongo was ready. With lightning reflexes, he rolled his Hornet inverted, pulled the throttle back to idle, deploying his speed brake to bleed off energy rapidly. He waited, a predator patiently biding his time. As the MiG's nose sliced down, having overshot its attack vector, Mongo seized the fleeting opportunity. He squeezed the trigger, unleashing an AM-9L Sidewinder. The missile let out its characteristic growl as its seeker head locked onto the MiG's engine heat, then shrieked as it launched from the rail. 2 agonizing seconds later, the sky erupted in a brilliant white-orange fireball. Second kill. The entire air-to-air engagement, from that first chilling radar spike from the Hawkeye to the second definitive impact, had transpired in a breathtaking 53 seconds, less than a minute. In that incredibly short span, 2 F-18s configured for ground attack had proven their mettle as formidable air superiority fighters, turning the tables on their would-be interceptors. It was a testament not just to the pilots, but to the incredible versatility baked into the Hornet's very DNA. The roar of the engines, the fading echoes of explosions. The air-to-air battle was over. But the mission wasn't. Both Hornets still carried their primary payload, those 4 2,000-pound bombs each. Their fuel states were okay thanks to the recent tanker hookup, and the original target, Jalaba runway, was still there, waiting. This was decision time. The smart, pragmatic play would have been to head straight home, claim the trophies, bask in the glory, live to fight another day. After such a high-stress, dangerous engagement, no one would have faulted them for it. Their immediate mission, self-preservation, had been accomplished with flying colors. But Fox, ever the mission-focused leader, keyed his radio. His voice, calm despite the recent chaos, cut through the comms. "We came to hit the airfield. Let's go hit it." Mongilio's reply was succinct, powerful, and utterly without hesitation. 2. It was a simple affirmation, a testament to their unwavering commitment and the unspoken bond between wingmen. They were not just fighters. They were still bombers, throttles forward, noses level, radar back to ground map mode, master arm switch flicked back to up. The transformation was complete, a seamless, almost unbelievable transition back to their original objective. They rejoined the strike flow, linking up with a Navy A6 tanker for another quick top-off, ensuring they had ample fuel for the bombing run and the long journey home. Then, with renewed purpose, they pressed north, deeper into Iraqi territory. The MiGs were gone, but the mission continued. As they pressed on, Jalaba Airfield soon materialized on the Hornet's FLIR, forward-looking infrared pod. On the screen, it appeared as a ghostly heat signature map of the 9,000-foot strip, surrounded by its protective revetments. The target was clear, but as they descended, the enemy wasn't going to make it easy. At 5,000 feet, the ground erupted in a dazzling, deadly display of anti-aircraft artillery. It looked like sparkling popcorn against the dark desert, but each spark was a lethal projectile, aimed squarely at them. Fox rolled in first, initiating a classic 30-degree dive, the Hornet screaming towards the target at 450 knots. He held the dive, maintaining perfect control, until he pickled off his bombs at 6,000 feet. The Mk-84s released with a powerful thud, and the jet shuddered from the sudden loss of weight and the concussion of the bombs leaving the pylons. 5 seconds later, Mongilio followed suit, perfectly timed, unleashing his own payload. The bombs impacted not in a single cluster, but in a precisely calculated ripple effect. They struck slightly long, then walked across the runway, a devastating series of explosions. Massive mushroom clouds of dust and debris billowed skyward, testament to the destructive power of the 2,000-pounders. The mission tape, recording the entire sortie, captured the calm voice of the airborne forward air controller. Good hits. Runway unusable. Mission accomplished. With their bombs delivered and the runway cratered, the Hornets turned south, climbing to a fuel-efficient 30,000 feet. The GE F404 engines, renowned for their efficiency and reliability, sipped fuel, stretching their range. Over the tanker again, this time an Air Force KC-135, a different service but the same critical lifeline, they topped off for the long leg home. Then feet wet across the vast, dark expanse of the Persian Gulf, heading back towards the sanctuary of the USS Saratoga. The trap aboard Saratoga, the controlled crash landing onto the pitching deck of an aircraft carrier, happened at 08:14. It was a flawless landing, a testament to the pilot's skill and the Hornet's robust design. As they taxied clear, the ship's company, having heard the whispers and the early reports, lined the deck, an impromptu honor guard. The air boss, his voice booming over the 1MC public address system, made the announcement that would echo through naval aviation history. For the first time in history, a strike fighter has scored aerial kills and delivered its bombs on the same sortie. The deck erupted in cheers, a spontaneous outpouring of pride and relief. But Fox, ever the stoic professional, just wanted coffee. The debrief, an exhaustive 2-hour session, would follow, with intelligence officers asking the same question that YouTube commenters would ponder for decades. How did a bomb truck just dogfight while loaded? The answer, as Fox would probably tell them, was simple: because it was designed to. Let's zoom out for a moment, because this single engagement wasn't just a combat victory, it was a vindication, a profound statement about aircraft design philosophy. The F-18 program, believe it or not, started its life as what many considered a loser. It was the less favored design in the Air Force's lightweight fighter contest, ultimately losing out to what became the F-16 Falcon. But the Navy, facing its own unique challenges, saw something different in the YF-17, the Hornet's progenitor. They adopted it because it promised something revolutionary. One single jet that could replace both the aging F-4 Phantom II, a dedicated interceptor and air superiority fighter, and the A-7 Corsair II, a workhorse attack aircraft. Imagine the logistical nightmare, the maintenance costs, the training burdens of operating two entirely different airframes for these roles. The Hornet offered a singular, elegant solution, saving immense amounts of money and precious deck space on carriers that, by their very nature, only have room for so many different types. Critics, those who clung to the old ways of specialization, derisively called it a jack-of-all-trades, master of none. They argued that by trying to do everything, it would excel at nothing. But what Desert Storm, and particularly this mission, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt was that this perceived insult was, in fact, the Hornet's greatest compliment. This was a machine where the same pilot, sitting in the same cockpit, could drop a JDAM precision-guided bomb with pinpoint accuracy one moment, then with the flick of a switch guide an AMRAAM missile to intercept an enemy fighter. The pilot who had just strafed a bunker on the ground could, mere minutes later, radar lock a flanker, one of the Soviet Union's most advanced fighter aircraft, in a deadly aerial duel. The Hornet's secret lay in its advanced avionics, its digital architecture, and those multifunction displays that allowed pilots to seamlessly switch between complex mission sets. Versatility, once considered a compromise in aviation, was no longer a weakness. It was quite simply a cheat code. It allowed tactical flexibility that bewildered and overwhelmed adversaries, fundamentally changing the calculus of air combat. Fox's precise Sparrow shot on that morning also did something else significant. It finally settled a long-standing Navy grudge. For years, dating back to the Vietnam War, the service had faced relentless criticism for relying on missiles that, frankly, often missed. Early versions of radar-guided missiles were notoriously unreliable, easily confused by electronic countermeasures or ground clutter, leading to frustratingly low hit rates. This historical baggage had plagued naval aviation for decades, but the AM-7M Sparrow, the version Fox used that day, was a different beast. It incorporated an improved seeker head and significantly better resistance to ground clutter, making it far more effective than its predecessors. Fox's engagement offered undeniable proof. One shot, one kill. While not every missile fired in the Gulf War achieved that perfect ratio, for Fox it was absolute. This single engagement, witnessed and verified, revitalized confidence in radar-guided missiles. The success of the AIM-7M, and this engagement in particular, energized funding and development for its successor, the AIM-120 AMRAAM, the Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile. The AMRAAM, a revolutionary fire-and-forget radar missile, is still a cornerstone of air-to-air combat today, 3 decades later. This one engagement, resulting in 2 kills, created a genuine butterfly effect that rippled across 3 decades, influencing missile technology, combat doctrine, and the very future of aerial warfare. It wasn't just a tactical victory, it was a strategic validation. And let's talk about the unsung heroes, the maintainers. Back on the carrier, the Hornet's maintenance statistics were frankly eye-watering. In the harsh, unforgiving environment of carrier operations, reliability and ease of maintenance are paramount. The Hornet delivered in spades. Its twin General Electric F404 GE402 turbofan engines, each churning out 1,700 pounds of thrust, weren't just powerful. They were robust, incredibly resistant to stall and flameout, and crucially designed for rapid servicing. An engine swap, a monumental task on many aircraft, could be accomplished in about 20 minutes by a small, well-drilled crew. Think about that. A complete engine replacement in less time than it takes to watch a sitcom. The advanced digital multiplex avionics meant that troubleshooting was simplified. Instead of tracing miles of individual wires, a single, trained wrench turner could pull a black box, a modular avionics component, slam a spare in its place, run a built-in test, BT check to confirm functionality, and sign it off. This modularity drastically reduced maintenance downtime, keeping more jets in the fight. On that very day, the USS Saratoga launched a staggering 96 sorties. An incredible 94 of them made their scheduled launch time. Try achieving that kind of operational tempo with a 1970s airframe, with its temperamental, analog systems and complex maintenance requirements. It was simply unheard of. The jet that had just fought at a punishing 7 Gs, that had endured the stress of combat and the rigors of a carrier launch and landing, still had 2,000 psi in its nitrogen bottles, plenty of hydraulic metal integrity, and 0 battle damage. It was ready for the next cat shot, ready to launch again by noon. This wasn't just good engineering. It was a testament to a design philosophy that prioritized readiness as much as performance. The story, a tale of unparalleled combat versatility, didn't stay a secret for long. Public affairs officers got wind of the incredible engagement within hours, and the details began to filter out. By day 3, CNN, the nascent 24-hour news network that was bringing the Gulf War into living rooms around the world, was running grainy footage from the Hornet's HUD, heads-up display tapes. That raw, visceral clip, showing the MiG exploding in a fireball, transformed the F-18 from a mere military workhorse into an instant celebrity. The impact was immediate and tangible. On the piers of Pensacola, Florida, where aspiring aviators signed up, recruiters reported a staggering 30% jump in aviation contracts. Young men and women inspired by the Hornet's performance wanted to fly that incredible machine. In the halls of power, where Congress was locked in heated debates over defense budgets, this real-world demonstration of the Hornet's capabilities provided undeniable evidence of its value. They signed off on the development of the F-18E F Super Hornet, the next evolution of the platform, 2 months ahead of schedule. It was a clear demonstration that sometimes, in the complex world of military procurement and public opinion, perception can matter even more than thrust-to-weight ratios or raw performance numbers. The Hornet had captured the public imagination and secured its future. What about the men who flew that morning? Both Mark Fox and Nick Mongilio finished the war, rotated home, and remained dedicated to the Navy, continuing their distinguished careers. Fox, in time, rose through the ranks to become a rear admiral, shaping naval aviation policy for years to come. Mongilio, for his part, went on to command a squadron, then a wing, leaving his own indelible mark on the service. In interviews, when asked about that incredible morning, they often displayed the characteristic humility of true professionals. They'd shrug almost dismissively and say something like, "We just executed our training. And while that's undeniably true, their rigorous training was absolutely foundational to their success. It's only half the story. The other, equally crucial half is the machine itself. It was the F-18 Hornet that allowed them to flip between entirely different mission sets mid-air, without ever needing to touch a wrench or land the aircraft. The Hornet's true magic wasn't some mystical wizardry. It was the sheer brilliance of its software. The integrated design that allowed for unparalleled flexibility. It enabled the pilot to reconfigure the aircraft faster than the enemy could possibly retarget, giving them a decisive edge in a dynamic and deadly environment. It was a synergy of human skill and technological foresight that made the impossible possible. Conclusion. So what did January 17, 1991 truly prove? It proved unequivocally that a bomber, laden with its destructive payload, could still hold its own in a dogfight against dedicated enemy fighters. It demonstrated that a fighter, with its inherent agility, could still put a 2,000-pound crater exactly where it was needed, precisely on target. And perhaps most importantly, it showed the world that an airplane once mocked as a compromise, a jack-of-all-trades, could become the benchmark, the gold standard, for every multi-role jet that has followed since. 2 MiGs, 1 runway, 4 minutes of sheer unadulterated combat, and history was written in fire and jet fuel. Not bad for a Tuesday morning, eh? Call to action. If you want more true stories where engineering meets guts, hit subscribe. Drop a comment telling us which dogfight you'd like unpacked next. And if you know a Hornet driver, send them this video. They'll grin.